on myongconsulting.com, that's MYONG consulting.com, you generously provide a free college application guidebook. But I noticed that it started in the second semester of junior year, and that's where you kind of list maybe take one standardized test or take one at least by this time.
Yeah.
Is that kind of your timeline for last possible first attempt, or what's kind of your ideal SAT ACT timeline that you have envisioned in your mind from your
Yeah, I
experience?
mean, I think, I might be outdated in this, but I've always been told by College Board, and at least what I know is that, that whole SAT testing is designed for second semester junior year. And I know, especially here in Korea, they start to take it at their, freshman year and sophomore year and try to get it out of the way. Unfortunately, it almost never seems to happen. Once in a while, it happens. Yeah, where they take it one time in their sophomore year and they get their 1590 or 1600, so they're like, we're done. Great. If that can be done, that would be amazing. Then they could focus on IB and as they get full into it in 11th and 12th grade and without having to worry about another standardized test that they have to worry about. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. Vast majority of the kids that I've worked with is like, okay, I want to get it out of the way in sophomore year. I didn't get the score I needed, so I'm doing it again. I'm preparing again. I'm going TheHagwon again. So they take it 3, 4, 5 times. That's an issue. So when's the best time? I think the best time is whenever you think you're most ready, and hopefully, having done 2.5, years of math and 2.5 years of English and 2.5 years of whatever else that was going on in school, you've learned enough that you have the fundamentals to be able to handle whatever materials that are there in the SATs. You spend a few weeks, preparing for it, not studying for it. You're preparing for it. You kind of learn how to do certain things. That's what you guys provide, those kind of tips, a little bit of I guess practice, and then take it. And ideally, take it one time, get the highest score possible, done. That would be ideal. How many times does that happen? Not very.
Not very often. One thing I would add to that conversation, I think that used to work really nicely when we had the January SAT. So when we had the January SAT, you could be a junior, second semester, you had winter break to do like good 3 weeks of studying, and then fresh out the beginning of the semester, you could sit a January exam, see how that go, maybe take one more that second semester, and then you could be done. And that would be ideal. That is how a lot of people used to take it. Unfortunately, we don't have the January SAT anymore. You have the option of taking the December or the March. What we have seen is a lot of students have started to migrate towards the December exam just because March, second semester, junior year is a really rough time. We've all been there. You've seen many, many rounds of that. And whether you're doing IB or AP, that's a bad time for you. That's a bad time. So a lot of students have instead started taking the December or maybe even the October SAT. October, November, December, we have an exam. That would be not a bad first test to sit. I also agree that I don't think if you're a freshman, even if you're a very high achieving sophomore, it's really not a good idea to be sitting SAT exams. For 2 reasons, like Mr. Young said. One, if you start sitting exams like 9th or 10th grade, you get the impression that you can sit many, many more exams. And we've talked about this before, but that is never a good idea. If you start studying for the SAT, I want you to be done, like take your last test, maximum 6 to 8 months from today. Like if today's the first day you start studying, 6 months, you should be done. That's like including taking it 2 to 3 times. If anything more than that, you're just giving your money away to College Board at that point because you're not going to be more motivated to study. You're not putting in more effort. So that's just a bad idea. And also, there's a lot of learning at school you have to do. A lot of the basic learning, like Mr. May said, you have to take math, English at school, get the basics in to get ready to study for the SAT. So, make sure, I definitely agree. Make sure you're hitting those marks, but I think more realistically, fall of junior year nowadays is probably a good first exam to take. Yeah, just with a different schedule.
I'm sure you've seen many tragic stories of people taking it 5, 6 times. Or
Yeah.
they'll ask you, sure, retake to get 20 more points.
Yeah. If they're going to do that, might as well take ACTs. Right? I think there's a I guess advantage to doing ACTs because the score report doesn't come out together. Unfortunately, the College Board has all of them all together, which means that they can see, because that's what they want. Most universities that are competitive, they want to see all your test scores. Well, if you show them that you've taken it 6 times, they're wondering like, okay,
Not a good look.
you've spent half your life taking an SAT, and look at the result, right? Even if it's good, like, okay, was it worth it? No, wasn't worth it. So 3 times is maximum is what I always say. I know kids do more than that these days, but I just don't think that's a good idea. If you can plan a bit early and do it 3 times, and the third time, hopefully you don't have to do a third time. If it's a third time, that's it. That's your last time. Get your highest score as possible. Then it'll be good. And still, I think the COVID, had some, had an impact on that. Obviously, a lot of the schools pretty much all the schools went test optional, right, for a couple of seasons, couple of rounds. Now they're starting to come back, unfortunately. So now it's going to become a little bit more of a factor, but still at this point, I'll say that there are plenty of schools that are test optional. So it's not as important as it used to be.